Stalling. We've all experienced it. You're brewing like normal, you make your final pour, maybe a quick agitation, and the flow just stops. 2 minutes pass, and nothing has happened. For most, this is just a minor annoyance. A quick redo of the brew and everything is fine, but for some, this is a regular occurrence that just does not go away. Fortunately though, I've been there, and I'm going to explain what causes it and talk about some of the things that I did to fix it. When I got into brewing filter coffee a while back, I experienced stalling or some kind of defect every time I brewed. It took me a while to figure out why I was having these issues, and it's only until recently that I've actually fixed stalling for good. So first, let's understand the culprits behind it. Those are muddying and fines migration. Muddying is when ultra-fine particles of coffee, better known as fines, become clogged in the pores of the filter paper, which blocks the water from passing through, slowing down the brew. And fines migration is when the brew water displaces and carries fines to the bottom of the brewer where they accumulate and block it up. The amount of fines in your ground coffee is predominantly determined by your grinder. All grinders produce fines, but cheap grinders tend to produce a lot more than those in higher price brackets due to the lower quality and precision of the burrs. However, if you have a cheap grinder, don't throw it away, because you can still work with it and make good coffee. The grinder that I use for making pour over is the Wilfer Svart. It's a reasonably cheap one and produces a fair amount of fines, but I can still get great cups with it. So we've covered what muddying and fines migration is. Now let's talk about what helped me to stop them, beginning with choosing the right filter paper. The filter paper you choose to brew with matters much more than you think. Filter papers come in all different thicknesses and texture patterns called creping. This is really important because it increases the surface area of the filter and helps to reduce the effects of muddying. Every filter paper is different in its design, and depending on the equipment and coffee you're using, some will work well and some won't. I discovered this on accident and made a YouTube short about it where I took 2 filters made by Hario, which looked identical at a glance, but are actually very different in terms of thickness and creping. I brewed with each one to compare them. One ran really smoothly and produced a balanced cup of coffee, while the other stalled and made a really muddy and awful one. And that's when I realized just how different filter papers can be. Link to that clip will be in the description. And that just goes to show how important it is to use the right filter. So what I recommend you do is buy a few different paper filters, brew with each one, record how it goes, how it tastes, and then pick the one that you think ran smoothest and tasted best. The next thing that helped me stop fines from ruining my brews was improving my pouring technique and slowing down my pour. Pouring technique is fundamental to achieving a good brew. It doesn't sound too important how fast you pour or where you pour, but it has a huge impact on the extraction of the grounds and how the coffee bed reacts and moves. The goal when pouring is to create just enough turbulence in the slurry to agitate the grounds and provide an even extraction. If you pour too slowly or too low, you won't agitate the coffee enough to create an even extraction, and your brews will taste under-extracted. If you pour too fast or too high, you'll stir up the grounds so much that you'll cause some muddying and fines to migrate to the bottom. To find the right pouring height and speed, pour and raise the kettle until the stream begins to splash on the surface of the slurry, and then drop the kettle down just a bit until you achieve a smooth pour. And that's roughly the distance you should keep between the spout of the kettle and the slurry at any given moment. When I started brewing filter coffee, my pouring technique was not something that came easily to me. So a lot of my pours were way too fast or too high, and that would often cause my pour over to stall and my coffee to taste really muddy. But as I got better, more precise and careful with my pour overs began to draw down faster, and I noticed an improvement in the clarity and overall flavour of the brew. The final thing that helped me put an end to stalling was stirring and swirling the coffee slurry less. Agitating the slurry through stirring and swirling helps in achieving an even extraction, but if you do it too frequently or vigorously, you can encourage both muddying and fines migration, which is sure to bring your brew to a standstill. When I used to brew before, I would agitate the slurry so much and so vigorously, thinking I was making the brew extract more evenly. It was quite satisfying to swirl it, and I found myself doing it quite a lot, not realising I was muddying it more and more, and then I'd be disappointed when the drawdown would take 3 minutes. But the moment I stopped agitating so much, my pour overs began to draw down much quicker. So now I just like to agitate at the beginning of the brew to help with saturating all of those grounds evenly. And then I don't touch the brewer for the rest of the brew because I feel that the pour does enough agitation. So my suggestion is that you try agitating just a bit softer or less frequently and see if it improves the drawdown time. And that's all for today's video. If you feel this video has helped you or you've come away with some valuable knowledge, then leave a comment down below. And as always, if you like this video and want to see similar content in the future, subscribe, turn on notifications, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you again soon.